good day. It is the 20th already of June 2021. It's Father's Day. Happy Father's Day. And if you're not a father, thank your father, for all the hard work and sacrifice that he has made. Today's little portion of this here is going to be on two things, really. Number one, it's on media bias, and number two, it's informative. There is something I wasn't aware of, and that is, number one, that the U.S. Marshals Task Force, Fugitive Task Force, is involved in more shootings than any other unit in the federal government. So these task forces all over the country, when you compare them to DEA, FBI, any other branch of the federal government, or any police department, they're involved in more fatal shootings. The second thing I want to point out is that, probably you already know this, the media does not, it's not a friendly environment for law enforcement. And I'm going to give a short example, just one example, of a case in North Carolina where a shooting took place. Guy had 16 warrants on him, went for a weapon. He ended up, getting shot and killed. Too bad for him. I feel terrible for him. I feel terrible for his family. But look at the way the media reported it. And also, not just the way the media reported it, but they used the material from an activist, a political activist group, and reported it as if it were news. So take a look at this, and then I'll talk to you very shortly afterward. Okay, this is just one example of what I'm complaining about. This is a report that came out a week after a man named Frankie Jennings was shot by U.S. Marshals. He had 16 warrants out for his arrest. He drew a weapon on the officer. Really doesn't matter. What happened is the press went to an advocacy group for information on it. It's a very liberal advocacy group. It's actually, ironically called the Marshal Project, after John Marshall, Supreme Court Justice in the early 1800s. You don't need to know that for the test. But again, they report information as if it were fact, and it isn't. And if you just watch, in a minute, I'm going to put on a news clip of how the news media reported this shooting. And you can see, once we look at the facts and look at the information that's in this report, how the media stirs up violence and based on a false narrative.
Unacceptable. Like, we want answers. We want to know, what threat did he give?
What threat, and why did U.S. Marshals choose to serve warrants in the middle of the day at a busy gas station? Tonight, important pieces of information still missing after a U.S. Marshal shot and killed a man in East Charlotte Tuesday. Family members tell us that law enforcement still has not told them how Frankie Jennings threatened the U.S. Marshal.
And now they're demanding answers and seeking justice. Other family members say they come to this gas station on a regular basis, and now when they arrive, they'll be greeted with Jennings' memory and this growing memorial.
You have to revisit what happened all over again.
I think the most disheartening thing about situations like this is that there's no answers. It's not a clear cut answers on what's going on.
John Barnett is a civil rights activist. He says he's helping the family secure legal help and that the 16 warrants Jennings faced don't equate to a death sentence.
Yes, there's a lot of warrants out here. I deal with a lot of warrants. And he ain't the only one with warrants.
There was a gun that was recovered at the scene, but police won't say anything about what role that weapon may have played. We have reached out to both CMPD and the U.S. Marshals for more information, and we will update you as soon as we have it.
And as I said in my intro, I think one of the biggest problems we have in our country is the collaboration of political and advocacy groups and the media working together, and the media takes what they say uncritically as fact. And this is a prime example of it. A prime example of misleading journalism reported uncritically by the major media to a project. It's called the Marshal. It has nothing to do with the U.S. Marshals, but probably John Marshall. It's a legal advocacy group, okay? And they allege excessive use of force by the police in just about every circumstance. They don't much like the police. They don't like capital punishment. They don't like the war on drugs. They don't like people in jail. You kind of get the picture, okay? So they have an axe to grind. But there is some interesting data that they did report that I wasn't aware of, and I think you're not aware of. They used articles, court documents, and police records to compile data on shootings involving the Marshals Service and its task forces for a 5-year period, a little over 5 years, and they found that 177 people were shot by marshals or task force members, and 124 people, mostly suspects, died of their injuries. And it's also a high-risk assignment. 5 marshals or task force officers were killed in that time frame. 1 died from friendly fire. 21 were shot and injured. 6 involved blue on blue. And by contrast, they say Houston PD, 1 officer killed in that time frame. 2 Philly officers killed in that time frame. And again, the purpose of this study was to document what they believe to be a lack of accountability. And I'm going to use these 3 sentences that I extracted to show you how, taking something from an advocacy group and reporting it in the press as fact, it totally misleads the public. And this is a quote. "One of the differences between marshals and regular police is when and how they can use force." Didn't know that, but let's see. "Marshals are authorized to kill someone who poses an imminent danger." Totally wrong. You're authorized to use deadly force if a person poses imminent danger of death or great bodily harm, not imminent danger. It has to be imminent danger of death or great bodily harm. Okay, that's the standard for all the federal government, DEA, FBI, ATF, anybody in the federal government. And it's also the standard in every police department in the United States. It is not more lax than those adopted by California and New Jersey. So it's total bullshit what they're saying right here. I don't like to use that word, but that's precisely what it is. They're reporting something here to stir people up, to get them angry, where there's nothing to be angry about. And you're using misleading language. Very dishonest, okay? Again, a biased study by the uninformed. And they start off by creating a straw man. You create an enormous danger by shooting at someone who's driving a car down the road, said Jonathan Smith, who was a civil rights lawyer with Obama's justice, probably gave money to the political party. Who knows? Maybe he's good at what he does. Okay, in all of the agencies, including federal agencies, stop firing at moving vehicles. No problem. Major city police chiefs agree with that. Okay, just about everyone agrees with that. But what do they say the marshals do? Here's the lie. Marshals do the opposite, our analysis found. Many vehicle shootings occur after task force members in unmarked cars box in suspects, a procedure the agency calls vehicle containment. Yeah, these aren't moving vehicles. That's why you do that. Vehicle containment is the solution to high-speed chases or shooting at moving vehicles. Okay? So basically they've created a straw man here saying they're shooting at moving vehicles, but they're not. They're doing vehicle containment, and then someone in the vehicle has a weapon and they get shot. Okay, so again, you have a biased study by either people who are intentionally trying to mislead you or are just uninformed. Maybe it's like a young lady trying to do a report on the NFL who doesn't know what a quarterback is or doesn't know what a touchdown is. Or maybe they do and they're just trying to lie to you. But one way or another, it's very bad study by the Marshals Project and very bad for journalism to pick it up uncritically. What can we conclude? Well, here's what you can conclude. It's a dangerous job, okay? They meet many violent fugitives. The chances of having to kill somebody while you're a member of this task force are high because you're coming into contact with very dangerous people. It's a high-risk assignment. And when they say de-escalation, beware of that. Because I've heard this used, you should use de-escalation when the guy has been going for a gun. You know, as you saw in that first little video clip. The man had 16 warrants and he went for a gun. Boo-hoo, he's dead. I'm sorry that he's dead. But again, the way this is presented, it's meant to stir up emotions. It's meant to mislead the public. And it's a misuse of a legal advocacy group by, it's intentional misleading of the people. It's yellow journalism. And there you have it. I mean, I'm old enough to remember a guy named Walter Cronkite, who none of you are old enough to remember, who used to just report the news. It wasn't his job to make anyone look good or look bad. He just reported the news. Today, the newspaper people are activists, and which, I really don't have a problem with to a certain extent, but if they're using false narratives, then they become propagandists. And I think that's a very dangerous thing for our society. And, I think these task forces, I think they're going to be, there's a chance that they will be, adversely affected based on the false narratives. Because when you have activists who are in political office, who are feeding off of, again, a false narrative, the answer they're going to come up with, the solution to the non-existent problem, isn't going to be a solution at all. But again, God bless the men and women who are on these task forces. God bless anyone who wants to be on these task forces. I'm glad you want to be on these task forces, and they make us all more safe in the end. And hopefully when you read reports such as these, you can wade through it a little bit and see what's true and what's not really true. Okay? So thank you for watching. God bless you all, and very grateful for your support.